Good morning and welcome to the Camnet Breakfast Show today, Monday, 2nd May 2022. I hope you're having a wonderful morning. We're here to bring you the breakfast show. And today's topic will be Labor Day celebrations, given that Labor Day was held yesterday, but the commemorations are today, meaning that today is a holiday. To present the show to you, my name is Azipora Mushala, and I'll be joined by I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Shimba, to bring to you very vibrant topics. And so at 7:30, we're going to be joined by Iteshteji, Member of Parliament, Honorable Mutinta Twambo, and Petauke, Member of Parliament, Honorable Emmanuel Banda, just to help us talk about Labor Day celebrations, bringing it down to the community level. What are they doing in their constituencies? What do they like to see going forward? And at 8 hours, we're going to be joined by Mr. Lazarus Chisela, who is the president of the Zambians United for Sustainable Development, ZUSD, and that is a political party who's going to help us discuss the cost of living in Zambia. What are some of the measures that the UPND should take in the short and long term to actually reduce the cost of living here in the country? Good morning, Alex.
Good morning. Thank you, Zipporah. Always good to be with you on this platform.
Yes, definitely. It's a wonderful Monday morning, even though it's a holiday, we have to be active.
Yeah, indeed. Especially taking advantage of people being around, like from their homes and watching us from their screens. It's quite an advantage for us to just take that opportunity and speak to our viewers out there. Good morning, everyone, and we hope we have good interaction here.
Yes, and we are going to be expecting your calls really in the first segment where we're going to be talking about Labor Day. What do you think about the working conditions in Zambia? Because Labor Day borders on many issues. It can be women empowerment, it can be working conditions. So what really do you think, how are the conditions in the informal sector? What would you like to see done differently? And so this is your chance where you can go in, engage the two members of parliament, because these are the people who speak on behalf of their constituency members and really on behalf of all citizens, because they're going to take these issues in parliament. So really, what issues would you like to see done differently in terms of labor, labor conditions here in the country? So I'm going to expect your calls when you open the phone lines at 7:30 and at 8 hours, and also add your voice on the cost of living in the country. What do you think should be done? So we expect your engagement on the program today. So before we start our day, we're just going to have a little stretch to begin our day productively. So let's have the morning boost.
Good morning and welcome to our morning boost. And remember always to try do this at home early in the morning before you start your day. This is not the main workout, but this is just to help you get started your day and keep fit. So therefore, let's go. We're gonna keep it easy today. We'll make some aerobics movements. Aerobics is good for you, for blood circulation, to control your blood pressure, and also to make sure that you stay fit. So we're gonna make some basic moves in aerobics. Let's go. Very easy. We start with marching. Go. Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to our show. Let's go. Step touch. Last one. Hamstring. Last one. Knee high. Last one. Lateral legs. Last one. We're gonna put now all the four together. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, let's go. Last one. And knee high. Last one. Step touch. Last one. Step touch. Last one. Knee high. And marching. Keep marching, keep marching, keep marching. We're gonna change now. 2 knee each. Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's keep pushing. I know you feel like giving up. Check with your neighbor how many minutes you've done. Let's go. Go. 2 each. Now let's do it faster. Change. 1, 2. 4. 4 each. Last 4. 2 each. 2. 2. 2. 3 each. Go. And marching. Go. How are you feeling on your legs? Let's go now. March, 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 march. Keep marching. We're almost there. Let's go. March, 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 march. My producer is dancing behind the camera. I wish I can show you. Let's march. Let's go. Bring in a B step now. It was a pleasure doing a workout with you this morning. I look forward to another workout with you. Make sure stay fit and enjoy the rest of your day. This is Isaac Matsa, and guess what? I'm signing out. Thank you.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. I hope you are following through that exercise over there from our very own Mr. Isaac. And right about now, we just continue with our conversation with a segment of health, just to talk about certain insights in the health segment. And we'll be joined in by Dr. Msolech Poya, who's actually coming from Zambia National Public Health Institute, the lead epidemiology for vaccine preventive diseases. She'll be talking about what is polio as a topic today, and we hope you get just some insights from there on how best polio can be defined and some takeaways as you get to that conversation. Right about now, let's just be joined by the doc to discuss that topic.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Dr. Msolech Poya. I'm an epidemiologist at the Zambia National Public Health Institute and a member of the Medical Women's Association of Zambia. Today we have a very important topic and something that is very timely. We'll be discussing polio. So as you may have heard, we have a polio outbreak in the neighboring country of Malawi. A case of a 3-year-old female child was diagnosed with wild-type poliovirus type 1. The case is a child who had no history of traveling outside their own country. And this is important to note because we know that this transmission occurred in the child's own country. So we know that the child did not leave Malawi and got infected in Malawi. The child was investigated in December, and the case was confirmed as a case of poliomyelitis in February of 2022. So what does this mean for the region? This means that within the region, the African region, and in particular the sub-African region, we actually do have transmission of this virus in our community. And that is why we have seen that we have had a lot of activities with polio vaccination in the past 2 months. So we had the first round of polio vaccination in March, on the 21st of March, and we just had the previous campaign, which was on the 26th of April. And it lasted for 4 days, which I hope that all mothers actually took their children who are under 5 years of age to get vaccinated. So now we get back to business of what exactly is polio. So polio is a highly infectious disease, meaning it can be transmitted from one person to another at a very fast rate. One person who has polio has the potential to infect at least 200 other people in the community. And this is very important to note because not everybody that has poliomyelitis or who has been infected with this polio virus is actually going to show signs and symptoms. So some people will have it, but they will not have any symptoms, but they'll be able to transmit that virus to other people. So there are 3 types of poliovirus, type 1, type 2, and type 3. These are called serotypes. So this is important to note because we'll find that when we take our children for vaccination, which is the only way to protect ourselves against the polio virus, we actually will be given different types of vaccines. So we have the BOPV, the bivalent oral polio vaccine, which is given orally to our children with 2 drops in the mouth. Then we also have the IPV, inactivated polio vaccine. So this is given as an injection. Why is it important that our children get all 4 doses of the BOPV and the single dose of the IPV? It is important because these protect against different types of polio viruses. So the oral one that is given is protecting us against the type 1 and type 3. And the inactivated one, which is the IPV, is protecting our children against the type 2 poliovirus. So that is why it is very important that all vaccines are given to all our children for us to say that they are fully protected against the polio virus. So now let's talk about how this virus is actually moved from one person to another. How is it that one can find themselves infected with the polio virus? So when you eat contaminated food, when you drink contaminated water, when you shake the hand of somebody who has the polio virus, maybe on their hands because after using the toilet, they did not use good hygiene practice of washing their hands with soap, then one will be able to get infected with that polio virus. So when that virus is actually in the food or in the water and we ingest it orally, meaning it goes into our mouth, it then starts to multiply, or what we would say in medicine as replicate. So it multiplies in the throat and it also multiplies in the intestines. So when that happens, then it is passed on into the fecal matter, which is the stool. And after that, you're able to continue with either transmitting to other people, causing more infections in the community. So that is what we have on what exactly polio virus is. That gives us what polio is, how it's transmitted, and how it can actually be prevented. So it is important for us to practice good hygiene, after using the toilet, wash your hands with soap to ensure that you are not a source of transmission for this virus to other people. We have children who are at high risk. These are children under 5 years of age who we need to protect. When we are preparing their food, when we are providing them with water, let's make sure that we practice this very good hygiene practice so that we prevent transmission onwards. Okay, so that has been our topic on what exactly is poliomyelitis and how we can prevent poliomyelitis. Again, my name is Dr. Musole Chipoya, epidemiologist at the Zambia National Public Health Institute. Please continue watching Camnet TV. We'll continue with this discussion tomorrow, where we'll be discussing the clinical presentation of poliomyelitis as well as the pathophysiology of how this transmission occurs. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Welcome back, and I hope you were actually getting some insights from Dr. Musole Chipoya, who was actually talking about polio. And Zipporah, really, conversation has been about polio for quite some time. What were your takeaways from that?
Yeah, and really, like, I think there's need for more sensitization on polio, and the most interesting part really is that recently we launched a polio vaccine. That was last month in Chawama compound, and so really that is something that people have to actually consider getting for their children, because if this thing was there in the past, like in the 1990s, and then if it's back, it's really going to be a danger to many lives. But then thank God that due to modern science, we've not developed a vaccine for the same. So it's important to actually make sure that you recognize the signs of polio and get vaccinated.
Indeed, just a reminder to our viewers out there that that slot actually is up for grabs in terms of just publicizing your organization or your personalities in terms of sponsorship. So you can come through and just advertise on that segment, that is the health segment. But about now, we jump to another segment we're calling the money market, where we get an opportunity to review what's there on the money market in terms of the kwacha exchange rate. There you have it. The United States dollars is buying at 16 kwacha.86 Ngwe and selling at 17 kwacha.19 Ngwe. And there you have it. The Great British Pound is actually buying at 21 kwacha.16 Ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha.57 Ngwe. The Euro is buying at 18 kwacha.89 Ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha.26 Ngwe. The South African Rand is buying at 1 kwacha.07 Ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha.09 Ngwe. That is updated 2nd of May 2022. So in case you're having any businesses, endeavors out there today, that's how the money market looks like. We've seen a bit of appreciation from the
yes, and it's actually really impressive. Like it has maintained for almost a month now, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really impressive, and we actually hope to see that the price of commodities will reduce.
Indeed.
And the guest who's coming at 8 will actually help us maybe discuss what measures we should put in place to actually make sure that the appreciation of the kwacha is maintained, and this actually relates into our daily commodities. Like we should see that our prices are reducing, because of course you see this month fuel reduced, next month fuel increased, but even when there's a reduction in fuel, we never see this trickle down to the price of commodities. So what are some of the short and long-term measures that the UPND administration should take to ensure that communities out there benefit yes, from whatever development the country is going to achieve? And
that's the same remarks that Mr. Johnston Chikwanda, who's the energy expert, urged the government to make really much efforts that are aimed at restoring economic stability, to recognize and appreciate. And as you are saying, things must be appreciated from the point where a consumer is seeing the difference when the kwacha appreciates. So talking of stories that are relating to the kwacha, we have some drivers and commuters who we interviewed yesterday who are actually commenting on the issue of the reduced pump prices of fuel, and they were just, you know, echoing the fact that we don't see, I think we've handled this topic once many times. We don't see the quick response to, you know, reviewing the prices in terms of fare prices, transport fares prices reduction when we see the reduced fares, but when they increase, yes. So there is that kind of laxity from the authorities that be. So they were just emphasizing to say, let's see these stakeholders sit again and, you know, work on the viewing of those prices in terms of fare charts. So let's just take a look on that story as we get to analyze it further.
On Saturday, the Energy Regulation Board revised downwards the fuel pump prices by 2 kwacha 35 ngwe per litre for petrol and 58 ngwe per litre for diesel and 56 ngwe per litre for kerosene. This development has been welcomed by stakeholders with diverse views. In an interview with Camnet News, some drivers and commuters of Lusaka have called for a quick revision of transport fares in the transport sector.
Welcome. I mean, reduction is welcome, but ipezekati wakashita reduce my prices. Wapezekati ma motorists, especially aba bus na mashani, so wauza kutati no my prices washita reduce. My fares yakali same. So impact monga kuri se using ama moto yakali same. So unless washita reduce na my bus fare washita ko reduce na hivyo with immediate effect. At the moment things are still the same. And the 2 kwacha reduction we can appreciate, but we still need this fuel price to reduce further.
However, some feel the reduction margin is not much compared to the earlier increment, thereby affecting the mobility of people and goods in the country.
6 kwacha pakuweshako baweshako na 2 kwacha 1 kwacha ninchi nomba yakupera omwana amajigisi 2 kwacha ife finchi twala kitamu benefit so babuteko baloleke chepo befintu nafikosa naba nanje bantu fyonga balunda na kabunga balalunda fyo ikate fintu fyose kadi ulenda mu business naye nakwe bati mpange mu profit no nanga balunda fyo ati yo abalita fyo benefits bano balera banaye fofwe bantu fofwe banina amamotoka. So fuel abashitamo benefit bantu bonse teko bati yo baba motoka yo baba shereko twakula ndafuna makasomu ine turende
1 kwacha 50 ngwe lekeni fuel ibwere kumdala ife kumyesu ni kasama oko from Nakonde yes ni 500 umuntu abantu tabarekwanisha
As they anticipate the stakeholders meeting on prices, they can only hope for favorable prices henceforth. Alex Shimba, Camnet News, in Lusaka.
Some interesting story over there. So on Saturday, Zipporah, the Energy Regulation Board actually revised downwards the fuel pump prices, as it is known, by 2 kwacha 35 ngwe, that is per litre for petrol, and 58 ngwe, per litre for diesel, and 56 ngwe per litre, that is for kerosene. So now, this development, as usual, like we said, we've been analyzing this story for quite some time, and this year it has been always monthly that the ERB does the reviewing of prices, but then they seem to not appreciate the 2 kwacha that is being. Are they being fair?
Well, there's been
comparing the increase that was initially done in April.
Well, there have been many sentiments saying so far, like when you put all the months together, there have been some sentiments saying so far the fuel prices have been increased by about 9 kwacha altogether if you put all the increments together.
Yeah, from January to...
So they're saying by about 9 kwacha and you reduce by 2, so they're saying for them there's no difference. But I think what you said is what is important, whereby we see a reduction in the bus fares, because every time when we have an increment, we see these meetings and justifications saying, well, even when you just go to board a bus or something, they will cite the fuel increase, but you find that now there's a reduction, and you find that maybe bus drivers and all that who want to charge you the same old price for when there was a 4-kwacha increase, they want to reduce. So really, if we have it coming from the stakeholders, like official comments or official direction saying reduce, I think that is the better way to go. Otherwise,
maybe the question would be, what has caused this reduction really from? So we have the ERB themselves, also the energy expert Johnston Chikwanda, as we earlier alluded to, who has attributed the May 2022 fuel pump prices reduction to the appreciation of the kwacha against the US dollar, like we saw on the money market. So Mr. Chikwanda explains that while crude oil prices have reduced marginally, they remain high as they are above $100 a barrel. He continues to note that the situation on the global market still remains volatile due to the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, a conversation that people don't seem to like here from Zambia.
And did you vote for
it?
I've heard some, but really you have to
sanctions.
understand that these issues, international factors also have a play on the prices, because we don't produce our own fuel.
Yeah, it's just a bittersweet, pill to really swallow. So, and the sanction that Russian crude oil actually pose on our government and also our economy here in Zambia. So it's an understanding that people should actually understand, like you earlier mentioned, or just get to terms of the fact that we are part of the global market, and this is how we get to experience such impacts. Yeah. And
another interesting story, Alex, is from George Compound, where a father is alleged to have defiled his 12-year-old stepdaughter. And so really, here, according to the statistics, we're saying 2021 annual GBV data shows that a total of 2,238 children were defiled. So this is for children specifically, and so this shows you how serious the matter is. So let's just take a look at that story quickly, and we'll be back to begin our main interview.
According to the Zambia Police Service 2021 annual gender-based violence data analysis, a total of 2,238 cases of child defilement, translating to 72.6%, were recorded, of which 2,219 were girls and 19 were boys, presenting 99.2% and 0.8% of all the cases recorded. Lusaka province recorded the highest number of child defilement cases, with 798 cases, translating to 35.7% of all child defilement cases reported countrywide. A 46-year-old man of George Compound in Lusaka's Materos constituency has allegedly been accused of defiling his 12-year-old stepdaughter.
Tikankala pano pa nyumba bana bazimai tikazipakira nzeri ku bana maona mwana baje mubaliri uja mwana manga uja winangwa ina malnutrition uja winangwa no vimba uja ina mpeni then uja winangwa no vimba chani makamu so vindu vimosi chetifika kuziba nikusunga bwino bana bati ndeche chintu kufika maziba so pano pa nyumba wedo bwera pano mwana aja mai ba stepfather batate bake.
According to the neighbors, the stepfather made it a habit defiling his stepdaughter.
Kamba tatunikwani kuti mwanado osikirwa problemu tatuniku bifuri kutauka we utunabana mukasi unganda bane balakala kutaba mauhi so uhibalede kubikira mano kumwana ujango sungolo tali mwana wakamuhala mwana we kamba gumusungala mungumuli hai honse so government iberegera jankusu kamba kuchachira chitwala nchwari kuhotera chitwala kuhotera chibanege kutaka bana tuba help atsabukatira hi mugati muma kompani watukala utugwahili maningi mwe batarika kwende ndarumwa akujata abantu bachitabuti.
Meanwhile, Lima Ward Councillor Daniel Mwewa has appealed to mothers not to abandon their children, especially girl children.
Chintu chilangu cho chamene sinakondwele nacho nchakuti despite vamene vantu vakamba vamene vichitika pano nchakuti muzimai bwine wa vana because tamvera ati vamene vachita allege ati kuchita violence vi ni va stepfather wake then muzimai mwine wa vana siyapezekapo everyday kwenda kumwa mova. So even as we speak, muzimai si alipo pano. Manje zimai uzasunga bwanji vana. So isana pia kuri bazimai vatu mukomboni. Please, tusunge vana vatu, especially mwana mkazi. Tumekinga sure watu wamene usira mwana mkazi. Ni muntu wamene uziva. Ziko ya vuta. Note watu wandononga future ya vana. Iya, isipuna vaso. Tuchinge vatu mukomboni tapapata.
Blessings Chakwila, Camnet News, Lusaka.
So there you have it. That's a story of an alleged defilement in George compound. And so really, I'm sure gender NGOs really have to look into such issues. And just now we're going to our first interview. We're joined by Iteshteji, Member of Parliament, Honorable Mtinta Twambo, to help us discuss women empowerment. So really, we are with the Constituency Development Fund increased from 1.6 million to 25.7 million. There are a lot of expectations on how this fund should be used. And 20% has actually been reserved for women. So really, in what way should women benefit from the CDF? And also going to talk about Labor Day. Women really have been left behind for a very long time. And so how should women benefit in terms of economic empowerment in the country? Honorable, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Zipora. Thank you, colleague.
Yes, good morning, Honorable.
How is it stage?
Well, the stage is kicking. All is well. Yes, all is well.
Maybe let's just jump right into it, talking of labor before we even tackle the issue of women. What do you make of the theme for this year, that is accelerating socio-economic transformation through sustainable and decent job creation amid this COVID-19? And you know, we've had this pandemic for quite some time now, not just as a country, but even on the global scene. So really, how do you make of that theme?
Well, thank you so much. I think just to start with, I would also want to congratulate all the Zambian workers, I think, for the effort they are putting across in ensuring that they bring about the social transformation of this country. As you may be aware, the country is driven by the laborers, who are the workers, for use of an odd word. So these are the workers that are the engine of every country that you want to thrive. And in order for a country to thrive, it needs workers who are motivated, and the workers should be distributed equitably. We need the contribution of both male and female. We need the contribution of the young people who also come into the labor market with a lot of innovation. They come with a lot of skills. And when we put all this together, if it's managed very well, it produces a kind of a sustainable economic development, which is useful to transform a country from its current state to where we want to be. So when you look at this year's Labor Day celebrations, they come amidst a background of having been compounded with COVID-19, and we saw a lot of people losing their jobs, and we saw a lot of spaces shrinking, and we saw a lot of business opportunities not thriving, and this to a large extent affected the workers. It left a lot of workers without jobs. It left a lot of businesses without enough money to upgrade the salaries of the workers. So the coming in of the European government and this year's celebration having this theme, I think it resonates very well, because this is now a trajectory. It means starting this year, starting with the new government, the intentions really are to see to it that we start from where we left and start now accelerating the socio-economic transformation of this country through decent job creation. And when we're talking about job creation, the best job creation is not one which is created by government. Indeed, the European government has demonstrated that job creation is not just about adding a value towards the human development of a country, but it's also about empowering the young people. So we are talking about the recruitment of 11,000 plus health workers, the recruitment of 30,000 teachers. That's a true demonstration that we need to create decent work. And the recruitment of these staff also comes with government's desire to ensure that most of these sectors, they are well aligned now, their salaries are well defined, their working conditions are being reviewed. And I think for us as legislatures, it's our time also to start now looking at some of the laws that relates to the welfare of the people of Zambia, so that we check which issues we need to review, which laws we need to review. I'll give an example of the retirement age issues around NAPSA. These are some of the issues that as legislatures we are looking ahead and ensure that we start looking at them and see how do we make the welfare of the workers decent. How do we make the teachers happy? How do we make the nurses happy? And how do we look at the informal sector? As you may be aware, there's been a lot of complaints from the informal sector. Out of the 150 plus districts, we only have about 66 labor officers in Zambia, in the districts. And already this creates a gap in terms of the informal sector. They don't have anywhere where they are going to take their grievances. There is a challenge with grievance management in the informal sector. The people working in construction companies have got issues. And I think as a government, these are some of the issues that we feel we are starting to address in our desire to move this country into a sustainable, decent job creation. So we need to address all these issues from the legal side and ensure that we have systems in place that respond to the grievances of people. We need to ensure that we start reviewing some of the welfare issues for the workers, so that for once, the workers should feel proud. Just like our president has been emphasizing, our workers should feel proud to be working for government. People should feel proud to work for the informal sector. And more important, our desire is that people should go the informal way. Government cannot recruit everyone. So we are also trying to say, how do we ensure that the informal sector is built, the informal sector has systems that will recruit people decently, and that will make people be proud, and that will make the young mind not to focus on being employed, but creating their own jobs and being able to be good employers that are going to make people happy, and people should be excited to work for the informal sector than working for the government. So the conditions of service both for government and the informal sector should be ones that makes people to be very happy, and that is a direction that we aspire as government and as legislatures.
Quite profound. If you want to really join our conversation here in our studios, you can actually call on the phone lines that are actually scrolling on your screens, and also take an opportunity to just drop your comment on our live streaming that is on Facebook, Camnet TV, and you'll be able to review all the comments there. You can even question Honorable who's actually in our studios, and you'll be able to tackle all those questions. Zephyr.
Yes, definitely. And just to help us set the trend for our interview, we're going to take a look at a story that I compiled in Chikankata district of a vulnerable woman who's actually living with disabilities, because we're also talking about women empowerment. And so really, let's just take a look at that story on that vulnerable woman from Chikankata district, and we're back to discuss what opportunities do women have and how should they actually use CDF to solve the economic problem. So let's take a look at that story. Third world countries like Zambia have high poverty levels, and research has shown that the situation has increased since the outbreak of the coronavirus in 2019 due to reduced economic opportunities. Women are said to be more affected as they generally have less access to income-generating activities in comparison to men. For Esnat Munenga, a 49-year-old of Shamuyua area in Chikankata district, life has become harder for her as a widow with disabilities, taking care of 10 children. She explains that she has 6 children of her own and also takes care of 4 orphan nieces and nephews. Ms. Munenga states that she has been using money from social cash transfer to take care of her family. Some women organizations have however come on board in assisting with various items, urging other well-wishers to extend a helping hand.
Basagaga bukaro burino mbobo tubagaba imbunga bana bamatumbo bagari bunga kugwa abantu bapengede ndarumba mwandi ndahara bana basimbi ndahara mbunga ndahara badisi tindari bakwe badisi suno mulubu wangu suno kobali badisi batata bayigurya tamulubu wangu awo ndalumba kamwe bana babombo bachirira tinda babweni ndalumba bujiri bobu mwandi ime mapenzi yangu mwandi bandigwahirira.
Meanwhile, the Federation of Various Bodies headed by Ms. Kampamba Tembo has called for policies which will ensure that all vulnerable women are identified and assisted.
Gender equality by 2030 requires urgent action to disregard the root causes of discrimination that still curb women's rights in private and public spheres, and therefore we wish to appeal
to the new Dawn government of His Excellence President Mr. Hakainde Hichilema to strengthen the operations of gender division of the Cabinet Office, which is expected to spearhead the implementation of Gender Equality and the Equity Act number 2015 of 2015. This implementation of this act will certainly contribute to the gender equality and equity, and also help in the successful implementation of other gender policies, legislation, and international protocols.
In adding his voice, Chikankata District Commissioner Mr. Timothy Chipolyonga has urged all women in the constituency to form cooperatives if to benefit from Constituency Development Fund, CDF.
It is through this allocation that women, youth and girls will be empowered. According to the guidelines of CDF, 20% of the CDF will be allocated to the women for their empowerment. I therefore challenge women of this community to form cooperatives so that they can be empowered through the CDF.
The visit has been done ahead of Women's Day on 8th March, which seeks to address the plight that women face on the path to gender equality. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Chikankata District. So there you have it. So there are many women like Esnat Munenga in the said story who are actually struggling economically, but then with the Constituency Development Fund, where we have seen 20% allocated for women empowerment. And so, Honorable, can you just tell us some of the activities maybe which you are doing in your constituency regards women cooperatives?
Well, thank you so much. Just to give a background, Zipporah, I think every society that wants to thrive, it has to invest in the vulnerable groups. And it's indisputable that the women and the youths in Zambia have been falling under the vulnerable group bracket. And one of the reasons is that we are in a patriarchal society. We are in a society which is driven by men. And because of that, it creates, it reduces the opportunities that women have. And the European government, in its own way of thinking, there was a resonation to say, no, looking at the idea of decentralization, now that we want to decentralize the resources to the constituencies, because a centralized system was failing us, because opportunities were not trickling down to the real communities. Now with the decentralization, with the movement of Constituency Development Fund to the constituencies, government made the deliberate decision to ensure that 20% goes towards women. Why should 20% go towards women empowerment? Is because the women are the majority. When we were campaigning, we were talking to the women, and the women were the decision makers. In every constituency you go, including in Testes, the women are the majority, and the women, they make the decisions. Now, the women have continued to be sidelined in development. The women have continued to receive a very little share of development, be it in the formal sector. People can still argue that a lot of women have been promoted. We have not reached that level. Be it in parliament, be it at representation level, be it at community level in terms of empowerment, we still have challenges. One of the reasons why I have these challenges, to ensure that there's meaningful empowerment of women, is because of a society that is driven by men. And it's because of some of the cultural beliefs, some of the cultural norms that do not allow women to step out and start engaging themselves in activities that will be lucrative, that will provide what we mean when we say sustainable empowerment. What do you mean by sustainable empowerment? Already, government says there's 20% which will be allocated towards women empowerment. And the women, countrywide, they've started forming clubs. They've started forming cooperatives. However, I could still say there are still certain gaps that we need to address. I'll give you an example. In Itezitezi, a lot of women have formed clubs, they've formed cooperatives, but very few women think they can own companies. Because the formation of clubs, the formation of cooperatives has a limit in terms of what kind of empowerment they have and what kind of business opportunities they can engage. A lot of women, they still feel they cannot own companies. According to my statistics, just in my constituency, out of over 20 companies that are registered with the council, that are registered with National Construction Council, registered with Engineering Association of Zambia, none are driven by women.
And what kind of companies are these? Okay, maybe you can just break it down for us, the difference. Or maybe really what kind of cooperatives can be formed? So
what I'm trying to say is, for most of the women are now focusing on cooperatives, where they can only do some kind of, where they can only receive domestic empowerment, which ranges around 5,000, 20,000 kwacha. But we're not seeing women forming companies in these rural areas. And if we're not careful, the women will not benefit. Because in the most rural areas, the companies are still owned by men. And it's only the company that can give a group of women over 200,000 kwacha, that can give a group of women over 3 million in terms of a project that will give them meaningful resource which they can share equitably and change their lives. So for women, most of them, to focus on clubs, focus on cooperatives, again, it's a gender issue. They feel they can't own companies, they feel they've got no capacity, and the men jubilate. So it means CDF shall still be enjoyed, shall still be controlled by men. One of the reasons why we still have this situation, Zipporah, is because the women, they need support. Most of these women, again, if you look at the literacy levels, are high on the women than on men. The women need support. We need a lot of NGOs, a lot of women rights organizations to go in the rural areas. Let them live in Lusaka. In Lusaka, we already have those elitist women that own companies. We want the NGO, we want government, the gender division that is now sitting at, that has been moved from the Department of Gender to the gender division to step up and decentralize the efforts, go in the districts, go in the rural areas, bring the women together, decentralize the gender division, form the district steering committees for women, and start questioning, start asking these questions. As we speak now, the committees that are reviewing the gender, the committees that are reviewing the CDF applications, how much are they segregating, how much are they disaggregating the applicants based on gender? For example, out of the companies that want to build schools, that want to build roads, how many companies are women-led? We need to be asking those questions, or else the CDF may not benefit the women. Out of the youth clubs that are being formed, at the point of allocation, we need to be asking ourselves, of these youth clubs that have applied, how many youth clubs are led by girls? We need to ask ourselves such kind of questions. At the point of allocating the capital projects, which are 60%, if we are doing schools, we are doing clinics, we are doing roads, we should go further by asking ourselves, say, how are these facilities we want to do going to benefit women and children? Or else, we will not see any meaningful benefits to the women. So the women need information, they need capacity, they need to be galvanized together. I'll give an example. Just before elections, I had about 15 clubs that were given 12,000 women empowerment. This women empowerment was given in the previous government. We are busy investigating it. These women were given these monies without any capacity. Some of them have been abusing this money. And the Department of Community Development in the TSS has gone flat out investigating these women. But I can't blame them. They have no information, they have no capacity. We need people to get on the ground and teach the women how to exist as groups.
And manage the resources.
How do they manage themselves? How do they exist as a groups? And in some of the companies which are owned by women and men, how can you ensure that women become leaders in those companies? We found clubs where it's a women club, but the chairperson is a man.
Oh.
It's a women's club, the one who's drawing the money is a man.
Interesting.
All these issues, so when you look at them,
like audited, isn't it?
So we are talking about supporting the existence of these clubs. How shall women coexist in the club? How are they going to ensure that these women, when they are making proposals, as I speak now, women are making proposals for cooperatives. They don't understand what they are doing. They need support. Who is going to help them understand that this proposal we are making is not viable? We don't want to go the PF way, where people are only applying for piggery, chicken rearing. No. We need to move away from that kind of thinking. We need innovation. We need projects that are agriculture centered. We need projects that are more to do with processing. But are the women going to do that? No. They need support. This support should start from the district level. We need NGOs to step out, go right in the rural areas where there are a lot of illiteracy, there are a lot of knowledge gaps, and motivate these women and give them the support, teach them how to write viable proposals. Not only access to CDF is our business, Zipporah. We are not only interested in access to CDF, we are interested in access and control. You can get the CDF, can give you 20,000 kwash. You start a business, you make profit. Who controls the money? The money will land into the husband back home. All those issues. So we need to...
They are one, anyways. They become one.
So the moment money comes, the decision of where the money will go. The woman will just produce this money from the club. This woman will go and hand over the money. She will not have control on where this money should be applied. So and we are not going to see what we are not going to see what we want. When we talk of sustainable economic empowerment, we will not see it. Because again, when the money, the woman should make a decision on the business she wants to do. The moment she gets this money, she should also make a decision on how she wants to spend this money. And when she makes a decision on how to spend this money, that is when we say the money has worked for its intended purpose. Because you know that there are women who work throughout the day at the market. When they reach home, they have to hand over the money to the husband. The husband uses the same money to go and drink beer. You get the point? Yes. So these are some of the issues that we want to train the women. We need to capacity build the women. We need to motivate the women so that they make meaningful benefit of the CDF. If this is not done, we're talking about the Gender and Equity Act of 2015 that ensures that women benefit meaningfully, that ensures that we have proper structures at district level, at constituency level, at ward level. We have women representatives in all these ward development committees. How much capacity do they have to ensure that these women who are getting these monies are supported? How are we going to ensure that these women who are benefiting from these monies, they are trained, and to ensure that the largest chunk of this benefit the health of women, the health of young women, all these issues, when you put them together, Zipporah, they demonstrate that we have a lot of work, and we need to start asking ourselves deeper questions. In every step, in every action that we are taking on CDF, we should be asking ourselves, how meaningful is the CDF benefiting the most vulnerable groups, the women? We are talking about women with disability. You've seen that woman there in the short story that you read. How are we going to be deliberate to see to it that the women with disability they benefit from CDF? The money is there. The women with disability, they are not making applications. They have no idea how to go about it. They don't understand what kind of projects are viable. A lot of children, I'll give an example. In Texas, I've got a sorry site. I have a classroom. The only school which is offering education for kids with special needs. It's a very small classroom, about 4 by 4 meters. And it has 17 children. These children, they sit on the floor. And when I was in the constituency 2 weeks ago, I asked to say, have we made any application to build the new classroom block for these children with special needs? And I learned that they never did that. Zipporah, I made the instruction say, let an application that we build the classroom for these children with special needs be done, despite the council closing the applications. So we are talking about a society that is very blind to the most vulnerable groups. And they might not do it because they're in that situation. We need ourselves to open our mind and be able to think for them. Not only think for them, give them skills which will open them up and be able to see how they are going to meaningfully benefit from these resources that have gotten down to their doorsteps. That is the objective, Zipporah.
Yes, very wonderful. And since you know that for women to be maybe like the first time for many of them to do these activities, maybe are there any measures maybe we should be able to assess the performance of some of these cooperatives and to offer guidance in the future, since this is the first time that many of them are doing, because maybe some may fail. Would there be any assessment so that maybe proper guidance is given going forward?
Yeah, so for me, like I did mention, Zipporah, we need to invest in the gender and development systems in the country. We're talking about the gender division. We need the gender division to be visible in the constituencies or in the districts. At the moment, gender issues at district level, they are being managed by the district commissioners, who might not be well qualified to deal with issues around mainstreaming gender. So we need at this level to have a structure that is very deliberate and wants to see to it that issues around gender discrimination, issues around gender equity, issues around the sexual gender-based violence, issues around the sexual productive rights of the young people, they are mainstreamed at district level. The moment we reach that level, that is the same kind of support that will now trickle down to the business side of CDF. That is the kind of grouping or the government system that is also going to start now asking these questions that I'm posing here, to say, how do you become deliberate? To see to it that how many groups of women are owning the companies that are participating in the CDF? What about the entire CDF value chain? From the application process to spending the money. We need that kind of analysis that will help us to question, so that at the end of the day we have those systems, we use them as safeguards to see to it that women benefit meaningfully. If we can't have the gender division, though the gender division, that is what their responsibility is, we need a lot of non-government organizations.
Yeah, the incoming of the UPND administration came with the formation of new ministries and also the scrapping of some ministries where the gender actually is falling into, which was reduced to a division. Now, having this conversation, do you feel the significance which was attached to, gender issues in the previous regime was some sort of compromise with the incoming of the new administration? Or what could be your comment on that?
No, I think for me, having the Minister of Gender, which only resides in Lusaka, and is only a clique of technocrats who are spending vehicles are just in Lusaka, big offices, and you can't see them on the ground. It's as good as not having that ministry. Having a ministry in Lusaka does not mean you have the ministry in the constituencies. So for me, the decision to do away with the Minister of Gender, it was more of a structural decision. Moreover, if the Minister of Gender having a ministry was effective, we could have seen by now all the districts having recruited gender focal point persons in the districts. But we did not see that, even when they had the minister. So meaning the minister was just a waste of resources. So the structural system of moving the ministry into a division is what the UPND decided to do. And what we are doing now is wanting to see to it that through the same division, we strengthen the systems at constituency level and start to see issues of gender being addressed in a meaningful way, in a visible way, and see to it that there is functionality. I'll give an example. The Minister of Chiefs, it was just in Lusaka. The admin cost was more than what they could have been spending at the constituency level. The chiefs have no houses, the chiefs have no vehicles, but there is a bulk system of a people called the ministry that is serving no purpose. So for me, the question of having a ministry, it does not mean the European government undermines the role, the function of undermines gender equity and the gender mainstreaming. No, that was just a system issue. But we are very much positive that going forward, and the government is very much determined to see to it that these issues, they trickle down to the districts, and we start seeing good coordination. We start seeing the recruitment of the gender focal point persons right in the constituency, so that issues around gender can be mainstreamed in all the departments. Issues around gender equity can be mainstreamed around all the departments at constituency level. Issues around fighting gender-based violence, issues around fighting sexual gender-based violence, they need to be addressed at local level. They should not be Lusaka issues. As I speak now, Zipporah, the local authorities, they need support. We need a lot of gender mainstreaming at the local authority. We want to see a local authority, when they're presenting information on the applicants for the skills buzzard, they should be able to disaggregate that information and be able to tell us that out of the applicants of the young people that wants to go for skills training, there are 100, and the 2 are girls. Then we should be able to ask those questions. But when we have local authorities that do not have a gender mind, then we are fighting a blind a journey that will not see any meaningful development going to the boys they're going to the girls. I'll give you an example. I was just analyzing the applicants for skills development in my constituency. That was 2 weeks ago when I was in my constituency. Out of the 89, only the 4 were girls. What
out of 89 applicants?
Only the 4 were girls who were willing to take up the apprenticeship courses. Like what I mean, bricklaying, carpentry, even to go and do computer studies, even to go and do tailoring, even to go and do hotel management. Only the 4 were girls out of 89. What does it mean? I've given an example that out of over 9 companies that are listed in the constituency, and they've got all the right documents, National Construction Council, EIZ, none is driven by women. You get the point? So these are the issues that we are saying we need someone to start checking and start questioning whether this empowerment shall meaningfully benefit the women. What I'm doing as a member of parliament, I've started engaging various NGOs, various players to come on board and help to capacitate my women, because I will not be a happy MP when I will see that this CDF is only being driven by men. I'm speaking to different organizations right now, and the discussions have reached an advanced stage. Because these organizations, they want to see that women benefit. They want to see that women meaningfully participate. They want to see that women meaningfully get the right information that will make them participate. So I'm talking to different NGOs to come on board in my constituency, start bringing women together. I'll give another example, Paul. Part of CDF is to benefit the girls under the re-entry policy. And it's very clear. It's well enshrined in the policy. Kudos to government. Because we want a lot of girls that are victims of early child marriage, that are victims of unintended pregnancies, to get back to school. Government has made it very clear. However, a lot of girls, they are still breastfeeding their children in the villages. They are not aware of the opportunity that government has created. No, this is deliberate. By now, we needed to see a lot of girls. They were making an excuse, say, I cannot go back to school. I have no school fees. I have a baby. But here's an opportunity that has come on the silver plate. Now, we need groups, we need systems at community level that are going to start fresh campaigns to bring back the girls that are dropped out of school as a way of equalization. But we are not seeing this. And that's the reason why we've gone, as members of parliament, flat out, working with the chiefs. I'm working with the church. I'm making announcements in the churches every Sunday, every Saturday. I'm talking to the chiefs to start making public announcements, encourage the girls to get back to school and be part of this national cake which has been provided. So it's about awareness that we need to step up. It's about bringing on board a lot of people that have got this interest to ensure that people get the right information. We're talking about going the skills way. Now we're going to see to it that a lot of girls, they become bricklayers. A lot of girls, they become plumbers. A lot of girls, they become electricians. The opportunity has been provided. Government is providing free bursary to the girls. But who is going to talk to them to understand that they cannot only do tailoring, they cannot only do hotel management. So we need systems to get on board. And we are not talking about Lusaka here, Zimbabwe. Zambia is not Lusaka. We are talking about going to the most rural areas where girls have lost hope, where women have lost hope. Both European government is trying to give them, is trying to rekindle their hope. Is trying to give them a fresh start in life. And these are opportunities that have been given that are going to bring about the equalization we are looking at, that are going to bring the equity we are looking at. Because at the point of allocating the companies to build schools, for sure, we have to give priority at least to a women-led company. But we don't have these companies in the most rural areas. We are still seeing women from Lusaka now trickling to go and take the resources. We are seeing again men going in the rural areas to go and again take the cake that's supposed to drive the economies of the rural areas. So for me, really, the challenge is still huge. We still have a lot of work to do as members of parliament, the constituency development committees, the local authorities, the civil society organization. We need to do away with Chiwombo, do away with Lusaka, Kafue. Can we go to Kanchivia? Can we go to Naroro? Can we go to Petauki? Can we go to Testez? Can we go to Gwembe? That is where women, they still need information. That is where women cannot write. At my office, if you came, you find over 200 women. They don't know how to write. It's undisputable. The literacy levels are getting higher on the side of women folk. Who's going to apply for them? Government departments, some of them, they still have that mentality, the old mentality. They need to support these women groups. Department of Community Development, that's their responsibility.
So, Honorable, how long would it take us as a country to reach that expected end, considering the fact that this is a long, cultural phenomenon that we've experienced for decades now? So how long can it take us just to inculcate our women in our rural areas? So
the issues around gender equity and especially that issue, these issues, they border on cultural beliefs, they border on social upbringing, they border on the social systems that we have in our communities. They are not issues we can get to overnight. They are issues that will take a bit of time. But some of us that have been championing these issues, we strongly believe that we cannot give up. We feel that we are slowly getting there. Government is committed, and the most important thing is the political will from government. And as you have seen, I think the president has been emphasizing on the issues around gender equity. And the gender division, one might think removing Ministry of Gender and coming up with the gender division was not the best move. It's a best move. What we are trying to do now as government is to come up with tangible systems and tangible structures that are going to resonate with the needs of the women, the needs of the men in the community, so that we bring about the gender equity. So we might not reach these issues overnight. And that is the reason why we are saying we need to start talking about these issues as men. We need to break the silence. We, the men, should be the ones to start championing these issues, because we may not be women, but we've got sisters, we've got our mothers, we've got our grandmothers. It pains me when I see that my grandmother at the village, she cannot apply, she can't read, she can't write.
So in that
she cannot benefit.
Applies on their behalf, for example, where they're illiterate? Who applies on their behalf?
So these are the issues where we're saying we need systems. The constituency development, the National Assembly office at constituency level, like my office, is working round the clock to support women. I've told my team to, whoever doesn't know how to write, do it for them. That is why my team is paid for. But I don't know how in other constituencies it's working out. How receptive are these officers to the poor women, to the poor girls who can't read and write?
And the question is, how would they manage the resources if given, in the first place, they don't even initiate, the effort that is needed in writing, understanding what is required? How do they manage the resources?
Yeah, so for me, I think that is a very good question, and we have decided, some of us, to be ahead of the game by starting asking these questions, because it's through asking these questions that we are going to think about perfecting our societal systems. So like you have mentioned, indeed, it becomes very difficult for somebody who is not able to read and write to manage the resources. But it does not mean all hope is lost. Empowerment is not meant for the elite. Empowerment is meant for the vulnerable in terms of their education, for the vulnerable in terms of their space, for the vulnerable in terms of their structural systems. These are the target for this empowerment. So when you see someone saying the CDF is not well intended, the CDF is too much for the communities, that is wishful thinking. That is what it was meant. It was meant for the vulnerable groups. All what we are just doing is to deal with the teething issues. Teething issues, I'm talking about how do we come up with structures that will help women be able to have the right information. How do we come up with structures that will help women to easily be able to make their applications? And not only make an application, be able to know what kind of business ideas are viable, what kind of business ideas are profitable, what kind of business ideas are going to transform their lives from where they are today to another level. That is what empowerment is. And what kind of business initiatives are they going to engage in? If I were to define empowerment, empowerment does not mean you're given money and you spend. Empowerment is also skills transfer. How are you going to see to it that when at the end of the loan these women get, They understand how to coexist as a group. They understand how to bank their money. Their literacy level about engaging stakeholders, the bank, it also increases. How are we going to see to it that in these groupings, companies, women, they take up leadership and be the ones to make decisions? This is the kind of empowerment we're talking about. And how are we going to see to it that the way they use their money after making a profit, the money grows into social sectors of their family. The money goes towards improving the health of their children. The money goes towards supporting the education of their children. The money goes towards improving their home setup. They should be able to buy an animal. They should be able to buy chicken. They should be able to, their nutrition level should improve. That is what we mean by empowerment. It should be tangible. It should be visible. And those are the questions that we need to deal with as part of the teething issues, so that in the next stage, we have a perfect system. Some of us, we are trying to deal with these problems right now, so that we start this trajectory on a good note. And at the end of the day, we want to see success stories. We want to see a woman who's going to stand and say, I started the company through CDF, and I was given a contract to build a school, to build a clinic, and I've now built my own house. I've now built a crow. I've got 100 animals from the company that I benefited through CDF. Those are the success stories we want to hear one day. We don't want business as usual of belonging to clubs where you, as those, chicken, those normal traditional ways of empowerment. We want to see a woman who's going to say, out of the CDF, I've started the telecommunication company. Out of CDF, I've come up with a cannery. I'm able to process fish into canned fish. Out of CDF, I've started a big company. That is what we want to see at the end of the day. And we want to see that these women, at the point of sharing these monies, if they belong to a club, there are no conflict management, they're able to manage their resources very well, they're able to bank their money. The money should not end into the pockets or into my bag. No, money should go into the bank. No, that's the kind of a picture that UPND aspires to see, and that is the vision of our president. Because with this kind of a mindset, you will see a lot of young people not looking for employment, but venturing into business. And this way will reduce the pressure of 30,000 recruitments where everyone wants to be given a job. To an extent where, shockingly, 16-year-old children, they would call me, honorable, help me to get a job through this recruitment. I say, which job? I want to be mortuary attendant. I think we need to move away from that kind of a mindset where a 16-year-old wants to be a mortuary attendant. A 16-year-old wants to be a cleaner at the hospital. I said, no, as a member of parliament, I want to help you to be a cleaner. You deserve better. Start a company, start a cooperative, go to university. Or there's free tertiary education now. That is what we need to be aspiring for. That's the kind of mindset we should give the young girls, we should give the young boys, so that they look at the world from a different perspective, away from the common way that we used to look at. We used to look at these forms of empowerment. Just when PF left government, I did an investigation of 8 clubs, youth clubs that were given money through the Ministry of Youth. Others were given buses, others were given, 2 were given buses, 1 was given money to do a hammer mill. 1 year down the line, they had never spent, others had never spent that money, others the bus was down, others I called all of them in the office with my DC. Who is the chairperson for this group? The group members didn't know who the chairperson is. The other group members, they didn't know they belong to that club. That is what we are trying to do. And we are doing a clean-up in our constituency, some of us. A club that has been found wanting, they will never be given empowerment. They will need to go back and organize themselves. We shall make sure we know who are the members of this club. As people are forming clubs now, there is double belonging. One person belongs to 10 women clubs. One person belongs to 6. We are coming up with a system that is going to clean up the process, because we cannot belong to 5 clubs at the expense of others. Others will not benefit. We cannot belong to 8 women clubs when others are not benefiting. So we are also coming up with all these systems and ensuring that we give the powers to the ward development committees. Before a group is given money, we shall sit and check what they want to do. And we shall ensure the Department of Community Development that has this mandate nurture these groups. mentor these groups, monitor them, guide them and support them. Previously, we didn't have such kind of systems. People would get money and they go and marry. Use the money for a wedding. I think we shall not be wasteful like this. So we have a system that will blacklist clubs that have defaulted money, that have misapplied money in the past. We have systems that will ensure that in every club they are the right people. We can't have men in a women's club. We also will ensure that we do this kind of cleanup. But more important, people need a bit more capacity. People need more knowledge. People need more information in order for them to make informed decisions. In order for them, we have got people that are extorting money from women by giving them some copy and paste project proposals. They'll just come, oh, you're a club, I'm selling this project. So here are the women that have applied for a project. They don't understand its business risks. They don't understand how valuable the project. They just want to attach to application. These are the issues we are thinking that we need to start asking questions and help our women better, help our youths better, so that they see meaningful change in the change which the European government is trying to do. This kind of empowerment has never been there in the history of Zambia. We've been talking about decentralization in Zipola ever since I was in grade 2. Just a button of HH coming into power, man has trickled down. All what we just need to do is, how do we reorganize ourselves better? How do we take it up as members of parliament like me? Take things personal and see to it that my people deliberately benefit meaningfully. I'll have to be a bit harsh and I'll have to be a bit forceful to ensure that people benefit. At the end of the day, the people will see these benefits.
Your concluding remarks on it.
Posterity will judge us.
Definitely. Your concluding remarks.
Yeah, maybe on concluding remarks, we can even just conclude on the note of labor issues that we've been facing as a country in the recent times, where we talk of the wages, also the retirement ages, such things. What's the conversation you are carrying as the policymaker, and also just your impact in society on that note?
Okay, I'm not a labor expert, but I might just say, indeed, I agree that there are a lot of labor teething issues in this country. These are the issues that we inherited, and we have a responsibility to manage them. And as you may be aware, the president did mention that we have a lot of legal issues that we need to restructure in this country. And the part of the parliamentary session we are going in, when we get back to parliament after this adjourning, most of the issues we'll be deliberating upon, they are more to do with the constitutional changes, they are more to do with the legal changes. Because you agree with me that there are a lot of issues that were not well structured. And this also goes to issues around labor issues, issues around wages, issues around benefits for retirees. Though a click of a European coming into power, you saw that a lot of pensioners have been killed. This is something that could not happen.
Grievance handling.
Yeah, but for me, the grievance handling is one of the issues that sometimes...
I don't know if you've noticed, we've had a number of protests in the recent months. I mean, can we have conversation towards how best we can handle grievances?
Yes. So this is not only common to Lusaka, it's also common even in a rural area like where I come from. I've got queues of young people coming.
They're protesting even there?
No, not protesting.
That you don't have cameras.
No, I'm talking about I've got a lot of people coming to my office wrongly, because my office does not deal with the labor matters. But I cannot chase them. I need to talk to them and hear what their issues are. So I see these young people, I see these women coming to my office with grievances against their employers. And for me, in my own analysis, like I've mentioned, we need some legal reforms around issues to do with labor. And this calls for parliament. And we're only 6 months old, so we need a bit of time to review some of these issues. So I agree that we need to make certain reviews around the labor issues. But more important, I have to be honest that there is also a lot of information gap in terms of labor matters. I've seen young people being excited when they're being employed without reading the contracts. Even outside my jurisdiction, I've handled 2 or 3 cases in my constituency where someone comes with a grievance against a ZESCO, against a security company. When I read the contract, I find that some of the issues is demanding. They are not enshrined there. So as somebody who respects the law myself, somebody is demanding for gratuity when in the contract is holding in his hands, it's not there. So I see also some high level of ignorance, and I feel that labor unions, they are also not doing enough in sensitizing.
They need to do more sensitizing.
Sensitizing especially young people that are just getting into these jobs. The labor unions, they are not doing enough in sensitizing informal groupings on their labor rights, such that sometimes the capitalists, the employers, the business owners, they will ride on the ignorance of the people, because jobs have been scarce in Zambia. At the point of you getting a job is important. I don't know, even you when you got employed here, whether you read the contract very well, such that at the point when you are fired or anything happens, you have to stick to what was written. And that is where I think the biggest gap is. If you are employed and the contract does not resonate well with you, you have the right to challenge at the point of recruitment, so that you stick to what was agreed. But I see a lot of young people, because of desperation, because of lacking information, getting into some agreement, some work contracts without thoroughly understanding the conditions. And for me, this is a source of grievance. And more important, just general information around the workers' rights is lacking in this country. The unions are reactive. They don't provide the quality information to the people. They don't stand for the welfare of the people. They react to protest. They react to situations. And for me, I think in my understanding of unionism, that is not what the function of your union is. Some of these unions, they only surface on Labor Day. But they expect money from the people. Get the point? So I think we need to do a lot of work. It's a bigger conversation that needs a day of its own.
Sure. Thank you so much, Honorable Zipporah. Over to you.
Yes, and so we come to the end of this first segment, and so we're going to go into the second segment. We are going to be joined by the Zambians United for Sustainable Development President, Dr. Lazarus Sela. So we'll take a short break and we'll be back with the other segment.
Is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Welcome to our breakfast show. In case you're just joining us, we're now going direct into our second segment where we discuss the cost of living in Zambia. And I'm joined by the political scientist, who's Mr. Bright Zwa. Good morning, Mr. Zwa.
Good morning.
Yes, and also Mr. Lazarus Chisela, ZUSD President. Good morning, Mr. Chisela.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, right about now, we'll just take a look on the story just to set the trend of our conversation, which is talking about the manifesto, and this is the clip that we compiled earlier on. Have a look and stay tuned.
The United Party for National Development, UPND, while in the opposition for 23 long years, was known for its messages of bettering the lives of Zambian people. Key among the messages of the UPND, especially in the run-up to the 12th August 2021 general elections, was the high cost of basic household commodities like sugar, bread, and mealie meal, and how the party planned to lower the cost of living once sworn into office. 6 months after being elected, the UPND has come under fire from different sectors, among them the former ruling Patriotic Front, PF, for allegedly failing to provide indicators pointing to the lowering in the cost of living for the Zambian people. Among the changes that have come under the new administration are the upward adjustments in fuel prices, citing changes on the international market, hence causing an increase in the cost of doing business. In an interview, UPND National Chairman Mr. Stephen Katuka has dismissed allegations that the new administration is off track in delivering its campaign promises, as stated in the party manifesto.
Help us to achieve and not to condemn every little thing that is being done. We give people 25.7 million as CDF. For them to say, no, that CDF was not planned for. Who planned for it? It is us who are planning for it. It is us who have given the Zambian people that amount of money. For the 10 years they were in government, they failed to give the people that amount of money. So at times, it is necessary to say thank you to others. Let them give us a pat on the back for what we have done.
Mr. Katuka has cited the famous 90 days of the former ruling PF when it came to power in 2011, saying the country did not see any visible change during that period.
In 90 days, they would do a lot of those programs. The famous 90 days passed and nothing happened. They also said that they would deliver in 90 days. They failed to deliver. We are 6 months old. You heard one of my colleagues who has joined the party today saying, in the 6 months, we have issues, tangible things to point at of achievement. We can safely say, this we have done, this we have done, that we have done. And every Zambian can see for himself or herself. We have done a lot of things in the 6 months that some people failed to do in 5 years. And when a friend does something good, it's necessary to give a pat on the back.
Expectations from the new administration are high, given its various campaign promises while in the opposition. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
There I have it over there. So, Mr. Tsela, I'll just give you a short, maybe some seconds, so to just explain how it's been your political journey, and also just to make known of yourself from the viewers out there.
Yes, thank you very much. Just to talk a little bit about my my political life. I started this political life in the UK. We came together as Zambians in diaspora in different countries. We said, what can we do in order to contribute to our country? We have been educated by the Zambian government, and some of us have lived abroad in diaspora. So we said, let's come together as Zambians in diaspora, friends from the United States, from Italy, from Germany, from Australia, from South Africa. We came together and we formed this political party. It took us about 4 years to do this, to come up with this party. When we came up together, we said, how do we form a political party? Do we just say, oh, the name is ZUST? No. We said, let's make 13 committees. Each committee should consist of experts. We had the education committee, which included only Zambians in diaspora and Zambians here who were experts in education. Then we looked at agriculture and finance and legal. So altogether there were about 13 committees. And these were the committees who actually had to write the manifesto. Because what we did is, in these committees, they provided information. For example, the Committee of Agriculture, they provided the information for the manifesto for for agriculture and education. It's quite interesting to note that, you know, the chairman for the Education Committee is Professor Andrew Cholanyondo, who has lived in diaspora for so many years and has been he has taught in over 86 countries in the world, and is the first Zambian I knew who worked for NASA. So he's a person who have drafted the information about the Education Committee. He's the one who has been leading the group for Education Committee. And this is the type of education we want in Zambia, to transform the education system so that we have education that has an objective. Because currently, you can ask anybody, say, what is the purpose of Zambian education? You wouldn't even know. Why do children go to school? They will tell you it's basic education. Okay. But we want education that is focused on solving the problem, the challenges of Zambia.
Yeah, great. In the interest of time, we'll just cut you short on that descriptive, quite profound information about Mr. Chisela. And just jumping right into our conversation for today, the cost of living in Zambia. There have been some remarks from stakeholders and also the citizenry in general, you know, issuing statements on how life is now, considering the prices of, you know, fuel prices being increasing upwards. Just recently it was adjusted downwards, and also other commodities being quite pricey. How has it been from your end, your analysis on that front?
To be very frank on this one, the cost of living. You know, when I came into Zambia in 2020, when I relocated back to Zambia, I found the cost of living was very bad. You know, and I thought that the situation was so bad that, you know, you would see children feeding on the rubbish heaps. Looking at people who are working, they couldn't, you know, meet their budgets. I'll tell you, some people would earn 1,700, and at the end of the month, they would spend 3,000. Now, I was asking whether these people had to get some money from somewhere, but they lived on debts. And the impression I had was, whichever party wins will be able to look at the life of a Zambian on the street. But when we had the new party coming in, it took me about almost 6 months to start saying, okay, let's see what these guys are doing and whether things are going to change. But unfortunately, you know, because the previous government had done a big damage to the country's economy, then the new government found it very difficult. But I expected them to have known that this is the situation and then had to put up a plan. But right now, because people are coming from a very, very bad situation and they expected things to be changing, and things have not changed. So in other words, you know, because these guys are now in the government, they are settling down, They don't know what to do at the moment because the damage was too big. But we expected them to have a plan. At the moment, it's even worse. It's become even worse than it was before, because the first thing that was done by the new government was to increase fuel. And when you increase fuel, that means you have a chain reaction. All the essential goods will go up. So right now, we have that situation whereby all the goods have gone up. And even if we have seen recently that the fuel has been reduced and that kind of thing, it is not going down to the man on the street. Mm-hmm. It has not gone to those people who are suffering. Because this is not any change at all. Because the meal is still the same price. Unless you tell me that today the meal has changed, the price has changed, it's maybe 25 kwacha. It's still 150 for 25 kg bag. So which means the fuel has actually contributed to this. Unfortunately, we had this problem now in Ukraine where everybody is attributing all the challenges. But the question is, as a government, did we have a plan for disaster management? Do we have a situation where we have now this is the thing that we can do because of that? However, all these are challenges that we are seeing now, but we need to look at the solution. What are the solutions to all these? At the moment, everybody knows. It's like, somebody, you see somebody who is sick and say, oh, that one is sick. Everybody knows that this person is sick. But what's the point of talking about it instead of providing the cure? Right now, we should look at the solution. Looking at the government right now, I wouldn't dwell onto the government and what they are doing because I don't know their plan. I tell you, I'm one of the persons who is living in false paradise about the plan of the government. I don't know what they are doing.
Okay, maybe what are some of the short term? Of course, the UPND has a long-term plan, but then what maybe as a president and a stakeholder of a political party, what short-term measures do you feel from your end can be put in place to actually make sure that maybe when you have a reduction in the prices of fuel, this actually trickles down to the common man? What should be done?
Yes. The short term, actually, in terms of fuel, the short term that should be done is subsidizing fuel. All the countries that have developed, subsidizing the fuel, that because we don't produce fuel, if we were producing fuel, we can say we don't need to subsidize fuel. Fuel must be subsidized. I lived in the UK for so many years. Fuel is subsidized because it's the government that drives the fuel sector. The fuel sector, they import fuel from Saudi Arabia. They import fuel from Saudi Arabia. They don't allow individuals, they don't put it to the free market. It's not for the free market to import fuel from Saudi Arabia. They import fuel from Saudi Arabia and then they subsidize fuel. So that would be one of the shortest term they can do is subsidize. Right now, I can refer to my political analyst, Mr. Zua. Can you explain what America is doing about its manufacturing in terms of subsidies?
So in terms of subsidies, I'm also of the view that the government should subsidize the fuel sector, because it's just like even developed countries, they do subsidize their industries. America right now, under the Biden administration, it's subsidizing the manufacturing industry. So we can also do the same. We can recognize certain economic sectors that we don't have the comparative advantage, then subsidize those sectors. So another way that we can reduce, let's say, feeling the pinch of the cost of living is also centering on production. So we need to produce, because like when the fuel goes up, it creates a chain reaction, just like as you said. So every other things such as cooking oil, meal, they go up like that. So when they go up, it means that the people now are not accessing those essential goods, because cooking oil and mealie meal, they are essential goods. These are goods that you can't do away with. So we need now to say what? To start producing those goods. So if we start producing those goods, even when the fuel goes up, we'll be okay to know that when you go to a mall, you are able to buy a bag of mealie meal. You are able to buy cooking oil. Then at least that aching situation where you are thinking of a spiral chain where everything is so high in prices, you'll be at least okay to know that there are certain goods that you can purchase at a low price in spite of the others going up. So we need to also prioritize the aspect of making sure that certain goods that we can, because we don't have oil here, we don't produce oil. So if there are certain goods that we can produce here, let us produce them in order for us to what? To cater for the high inflation that's catering the whole economic sector.
Great. Now, maybe to Mr. Tsela, who actually made remarks on not knowing what government is up to in terms of plans going forward. Maybe one of the tools that we can use is the budget that they presented in 2021. That is cutting for 2022 year budget. So having the fact that 50% of that budget is actually going towards debt servicing, and that's just the fact. And the issue of us being now recruiting, or maybe in conversation with the IMF, who actually have also some provision part of their requirements, and that is to not to subsidize certain services like the oil. And so where do we see ourselves as a country having those two facts, IMF and the servicing of the debt, which are quite also true, that we need to service the debt we have, both domestic and foreign debt. So then how do we balance the two where we need to subsidize certain like commodities?
That's very important, because you remember when everybody was campaigning to come into government, almost everybody knew that Zambia was in debt. Even the little kid, you meet a little kid in the street who tell you, sir, Zambia is in debt. But it was surprising that we could see the people getting excited over another debt. So what we are doing is a very problematic way of solving the problem. We are busy concentrating on saying, oh, we should go and get more money so that we can reconstruct our debt. Right now, at the moment, when there's no food on the table. And if we look at the budget, as you've mentioned earlier on, to say, no, we are the budget and this is the way the budget, I was very, very surprised. And it was, very heartbreaking to see, when I looked at the budget, there was very little for agriculture. Here in Zambia, what we need is first food on the table. And this agriculture, as Mr. Zua said, we are supposed to drive. The government is supposed to be the driving force for production. And one of the critical structure of a nation is agriculture. Once the government starts driving that sector of the government, it will mean that Zambia will have enough food. What we're saying is that this government is supposed to look at the infrastructure that we have for production. We are very, very blessed because we already have the infrastructure under National Service. National Service has got very big land for agriculture. And we have the army. We have a lot of human capital, a lot of young men and women who are not employed, who are working the street. All those are interested in working for National Service. In National Service, we can create that. The government should look at that and revisit it. Because when the government is driving the production of food in the country, then there will be enough food. Because right now, it's so surprising that we have scores of foreigners who are commercial farmers in Zambia. What is the purpose of a commercial farmer? Is to make profit. So which means if he's producing 5 million bags and that the price of meal is coming down, what do you think he would do? Is he going to continue to produce more bags of meal? Definitely won't. He would say, no, I'm not going to produce because I'm not making profit. So we will make sure that the market is suffering. It is recently here in Zambia when tomato was going at 2 kwacha because farmers, you know, they were withholding the product because they wanted the price to go up. It's the same thing that happened to onion. You know, if you leave everything to the free market, yes, I do understand the free market is very important, but there are critical structures of production that are supposed to be controlled by the government. The government should be the one in forefront. In terms of food security, it should be the government. If the government was to produce maize, you know, they could produce meat, they could produce eggs, they could produce vegetables, all essential food products. The prices will go down because the main objective of the government is to produce and feed people, not to make profit. Their aim is to break even. I tell you, here in Zambia, we're so blessed. If we were to use national service to produce maize, how many bags of maize are we going to produce in a year? We are going to have bumper harvest because there are structures of irrigation in national service, there are dams in national service, then we can use them. And the price of meal can come down. It's a lie that you give me a budget saying, no, we are going to reduce the price of meal because of this budget. It is just on paper. The practical thing is that the government must invest a lot of money and resources into national service. We have the structure. So we can produce maize. Right now, if you ask anybody from Ministry of Agriculture, say, this year we haven't produced so much, are we going to meet the food demand for Zambians? He will tell you, oh, we have so many bags of maize.
And that's what's obtaining. On the
now, we have so many bags of maize from who?
Secured.
From who? Where are you getting them? You go to the... From where?
Harvest.
From who? Who has that maize? Who has that maize? Is it the government? The government has no money. The government has no food because the food is not produced by the government. If the government was to produce through national service and the army, then they would say, yes, go to national service in Choma. We have so many bags of maize. Go to national service in Lusaka. We have so many bags of maize. This is what is supposed to be done. I'm not talking about this from the world of forms. I'm talking about proven principles. Look at United States. Look at UK. I live in UK for so many years. What happens there? Food is number one. Food is the cheapest. You can go in a shop and buy bread for £3, which is like 3 ngwe.
3 ngwe.
Compared to their cost of living and ours, it's 3 ngwe, £3. You go in a shop and buy bread for £3. Here in Zambia, really meal, the cheapest you can buy is how much? You go there 150. Kwacha. So in other words,
yes.
In other words, what I'm saying is that we need this to be driven by the government. The food production must be driven by the government. We have a lot of human capital. We have a lot of places. We have the infrastructure already there.
As we come to conclude, maybe before I even throw it to my colleague Zipporah, maybe Mr. Zoro can take up the issue of, maybe the argument would be, we are doing something. We've increased, you know, the CDA from 1.6 million to 25.7 million. We've also provided free education for our people. I mean, is this narrative of, you know, cost of living just being pushed by certain section of our society?
Is it a political move, or is it something
or
that is
it's
real?
genuinely so obtaining on the ground? What's your comment on that?
So the high cost of living, it's not a fallacy. It's there. We're feeling it. You know, we are subject of the high cost of living. That's why.
What constitutes the cost of living when you talk?
That's where I was going. That's a very good question. So we have defined, because I feel like we need to be defining certain things pertaining to the context in which we are living.
Exactly.
So, according to us, we have defined the cost of living in 4 components, which is the housing, food security, job security, and health security. So when you go to a common man and you ask them, you are saying things are hard. In what way are things hard? The things they'll tell you, they'll fall in these 4 categories. They'll tell you the food is high. When I go to the hospital, I remember one time I sprained my ankle. I went to UTH, and because I'm not registered under the NEMA, so they told me in order for me to get a book, I should pay $150. What happened to the old days when you wanted to get a book for you to be registered? It was costing about 3 kwacha, 5 kwacha under 1 ounce, I think I remember. So they'll tell you the medical expenses are too high. The housing is too high. So they tell you my rentals are too high. In Lusaka, for you to get a good home, you must pay no less than 2,500 just for you to get a good apartment with a good toilet and a good shower with good clean water. So then again, they'll tell you we don't have jobs. So we define the high cost of living in those 4 components. And it's not a fallacy that these 4 components are lacking. We don't have jobs as youths. We don't have jobs. It's not a lie. The cost of housing is high in Lusaka and elsewhere. It's not a lie. The cost of health is high. It's not a lie. You can go to the hospital right now. Any public hospital you think it's cheap or elsewhere, you can go. You find no medicine. You find if they have medicine, they refer you to a pharmacy, and medicine is high. So you talk about food. Food, we don't have food. So it's not a lie. So this is not a politically driven agenda. This is something that you can do as a researcher. You go, you don't even have to compile a comprehensive research. Just do an interview to the people. Interview them, you know, what are your troubles in the society? Why are you saying things are high? They'll tell you things fall within these things. And I'll commend this current government for providing the jobs that they have provided and the CDF move. But my query with the CDF is that I feel the CDF should have been led by the council, in the sense that I feel you can't give money, you know, to people and say the people are going to do whatever it is that they want to do. You get. We need intentional planning in this country. And that's why, because we are aware that we don't have a lot of money, just like as you said, that the budget is, more of the budget is for debt
servicing.
Exactly. So we need intentional planning. We need to prioritize sectors and do intentional planning. So this CDF should have been intentional planning, in the sense that the council should be the one to lead this movement of CDF, in the sense that they should identify what are the people lacking. People lack housing, you understand? I would prefer CDF to be led by the council. Then the council, they say, each compound, every year we are going to be making 50 affordable homes. You get, every year, just one compound, each and every compound, they are building such structures. Imagine 50 families having affordable homes. That's a game changer, because now people won't be, you know, putting their monies in housing. There'll be that money for housing that they were, you know, like overexpending. They are going to be putting it on other things. You understand? So we need intentional planning that's meant to cater for the people's needs now and the future. So we need to think about the future. We are a growing population. Every day we're having kids. People are being born. So what about those kids? You understand? Look at the empowerment that they say they want to empower people. When you ask me, all these business people that you see in Zambia, especially us youths, most of them, they just do the same thing. I'm going to open a shop. I'm going to start selling whatever Chinese products that I'll be selling. But that's not the investment that we want. We need intentional investment and intentional empowerment in youths. So let's talk in terms of agriculture. We say agriculture is led by the government, isn't it? We are proposing that the agriculture should be led by the government. So we have the youths now in between. So we say the youths should be empowered in forming SMEs that are going to be what? Converting the agricultural produce into what? Finished goods, value-added goods. Hence, if we have the local people converting value-added goods, who have cutted the whole aspect
I'm afraid I need to cut you in the interest of time, Zipporah. Maybe just a quick one on that.
And so, Mr. Tsere, can you just give a comment? Today we have a holiday for Labor Day.
Yeah.
So really, in terms of the cost of living, a key issue again is the issue of jobs in Zambia. Do you feel that the current jobs in Zambia are able to sustain people, especially that today is Labor Day? What's your comment on that?
It's quite interesting that at this time in Zambia, we are still celebrating Labor Day. And we don't even understand what is labor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we go back into the history of Zambia in 1964, we used to have labor office. Today, you know, recently we had all these recruitments of health workers and teachers. They were done by what? By who? In the past, we used to have labor office. You'd go to the labor office and look for a job. And that is what has continued in other jurisdictions. They are job centers. This government, what I expected from us now to move forward is to have labor offices where all the people should go and look for a job. The labor office should have all the data, should have the data of all the jobs found in a compound, all the data found in a province.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we'll be talking about labor, because we'll be able, right now, there are certain people who need garden boys, there are certain people who need drivers, but they don't know where to find them. If we are the labor office, that's where they'll go. It's called job center in other jurisdictions.
Okay, maybe your last remarks as we end our program.
Yes, as we end our program, I'd like to talk about, you know, food. Because at the moment, food production is very important in Zambia. Because what has happened over a period of time is that they have left to production to the free market. National milling companies are only run by private sector. That's why on this day, I would like to emphasize and advise the government that they should put a lot of resources and energy in transforming national milling companies. In each and every province, we should have a national milling company. Because when we have a national milling company, it is going to provide what? Jobs. It is going to provide food. And when the national milling company is producing meal, it is going to produce a lot, enough to feed all the Zambians, and the prices will go down. It's a fallacy to say we are going to reduce the price of commodities when the government is not driving that force. And then in terms of looking at the job creation, it is very important as we celebrate Labor Day today. It is very important that the government, we have a comparative advantage on mining copper. In the world, we are maybe in the first 10. Now, what are we doing at the moment? At the moment, we are only exporting raw materials. We are exporting things that we don't even use. The government should come up with a policy to say, in the next 3 years, we are not going to send raw material.
I'm afraid.
So in other words, we need to invest so much in refinery, copper refinery.
Quite profound, Mr. Lazarus. On that note, we've come to the end of our program. I wish we can just set a day for this conversation.
No, we're going to invite you again
so that we can have an hour or so. But thank you for coming through, and we appreciate your presence. Zipporah.
Yes, definitely. So a very interesting segment. Earlier we were joined by Teji MP, who was talking about women empowerment in CDF, and we've also been joined by the Zambians United for Sustainable Development political party, talking about the cost of living in Zambia. So from Alex and I, it's until tomorrow at the same time. Have a productive Monday morning.